why does it seem so hard for us? Maybe I'm speaking for myself to care for myself spiritually. Like you would think that during a crisis and pandemic, this is your time. Like now you don't have to really focus as much maybe on work or other things. So this would be your time. And I actually, honestly, personally find it very hard. It's like I have all this time, but I'm not choosing spiritual care. Talk to me about that because I think that's a fascinating thing and so important, but we're not actually focusing on it.
Can I just say one thing to lead into this that I feel the exact same, Melinda? And I have a spiritual director, and a few weeks into this, we were meeting, and I said, you know what? This is going to be a waste of your time. It's a total bust. Like, I got nothing. And she was so great. And she's like, what kind of standard are you holding yourself to? And I realized that what worked pre-pandemic for me spiritually is not what's working now. But
Mhm.
somehow I wanted to go backwards into what used to help me instead of forward into a new re-
Mm.
relationship with God. And so her saying to me, hey, this hour is not a bust. And why are you trying to go backwards versus forward? And I realized that God was pulling me into a new place. I just hadn't thought that way. And so sometimes having spiritual friends that help you realize you're trying to recreate something that was part of your past and making it work in this current reality is not working. So it wasn't working for me. So for me, it's about new spiritual rhythms now, not what used to work. I
Yeah.
found that super helpful and so freeing for me to not sort of feel guilty about what used to be.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And Chris, as a spiritual director, what are your thoughts? Because again, it's like this is the time where we need to really dig into that, but a lot of people aren't. What are you
Yeah.
what's your experience during this?
Well, I mean, we've never been here before, right? I
Right.
mean, we've never been here before. And if we talk about trying to find our sense of home is a way of being caring for our souls, you know, this none of this feels like home base for us. There's so much uncertainty. There's so much insecurity. There's so much unpredictability, and that creates an enormous sense of vulnerability, and vulnerability in many ways just feels like letting go. And so that can be very, very scary and very precarious. So it makes sense for us to just sort of not know how to do this in
Ah,
this new reality. And trying to find a home base when what has just felt like a given in our home base is gone, then we have to, like Shayla mentioned, we have to look for new ways because we're in being invited in new ways like never before.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay that we don't know what we're doing because we've
Okay.
never been here
Thank
before.
you for saying that because but you both, touched on that makes sense. Now that makes sense because I was like, here's all the opportunity and the space and the time, but people aren't doing it and now are feeling guilty. I've had girlfriends like, I feel guilty. I have zero desire to be quiet, pray, read anything. And that does make sense because we've never been here before. So it's kind of like an overload of emotion. Like, where do I even begin? Where do I even start? That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Grace, what about for you? Why do you think it's so hard for people to really connect spiritually in this time?
Yeah, I feel like it's, a lot of what's already been said. It's kind of like all of our days have been thrown into a blender. And so we have no routines anymore, like no rhythms. You could eat lunch at a different time every day. The temptation is to go to bed late, to wake up late, and to kind of get in that routine. And so it just becomes really difficult to set any routines. And so, you're talking about prayer and these different, but what about just going for a run in the morning, or getting your makeup done, all of those things that you normally would have done are kind of just thrown out the window. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, as you're saying, I'm like, yeah, because you're right. There is no, I have to get up, go to work from 9 to 5. I have lunch at 12, 12 to 12:30. I've got my meetings. I come home, I make dinner. Like there, we have had set rhythms, like what Shayla was saying before, pre-pandemic, there were these very set societal, family, cultural rhythms that we
Mhm.
sort of abided by. And now it's like everything's out. In that,
Well, and Melinda, I'll just say, we often just thought before we just need more time.
Mhm.
But what we're discovering is that it's not just about time. There's something else that we're being invited to as well. Now, granted, we've needed time. We've needed time to actually slow down and listen to our soul. But once we have the time, we realize, oh, this is more than just time that we need. So it's a real invitation for us.
And I think actually when you have more time, the temptation is that, well, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll start that tomorrow because there's always more time. You know, I feel like there's a greater temptation for that right now.
Yeah. Sheila, you're going like, you're nodding, going, yeah, I hear you, Krista.
Oh, Krista and Grace are so right on. Like, this is the issue is, I mean, I'm used to traveling a ton. I'm used to very full days. I still have very full days. I am quite rhythmic right now. Like, I'm one of those weirdos that goes to bed really early, gets up really early. It works for me. But I do have slightly more time, although I feel like I'm working harder than I've ever worked. So in some cases, I'm on that other side of the extreme of I don't have a lot of time. I have FOMO for like people who paint their houses and, clean out closets. I'm like, when will I do that? But, when I think of soul care, I think Krista said so well that we all thought if we had more time, we'd do it. And it's just not true. And even though I have different kind of more time now, I've had to press in and actually challenge myself and talk with friends about what is the new rhythm to taking care of my soul. And it's been experimentation more than anything right now.